Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, picture this. It's 1959. We're deep in the icy, unforgiving heart of the Soviet Union's Ural Mountains. A group of highly skilled hikers sets out for what should be an ambitious but totally manageable adventure. They had absolutely every reason to expect a successful journey. But, as we know, something went unimaginably wrong. Within just days, every single one of them was dead, and under circumstances so bizarre that they've literally haunted investigators for decades. Today, we're unpacking the chilling enigma of the Dyatlov Pass mystery.
Okay, let's dive into this. The number 9 is pretty much central to our whole story here. On January 23rd, 10 students, led by a 23-year-old named Igor Dyatlov, set out to earn this really prestigious hiking certification. But early on in the trek, one member fell ill and had to turn back. That left exactly 9 incredibly experienced hikers to continue the rigorous journey. 9 individuals who were totally well-equipped to survive, and tragically, 9 young people who were never seen alive again.
So what actually happened out there in the frozen wilderness? Well, to figure that out, we kind of need to act as objective detectives today. We're going to carefully unpack the evidence, look at the massive gaps in our knowledge, and really confront the hard clues and the wild theories that just completely defy any sort of simple explanation.
To get a grip on how this all unfolded, we need to look at the timeline. They head out in late January, documenting what looks like a completely fun, carefree adventure. Their last diary entry was on February 1st, and they were just 10 miles from their destination. And then, total silence. They missed their scheduled return date, which triggered a massive, desperate search. Finally, weeks later, on February 26th, rescuers stumbled upon their campsite.
And what the search party found was just pure horror. The hiker's tent hadn't been torn open by the wind or anything. It was intentionally slashed open from the inside. It's like a giant puzzle. Even more chilling, the hikers had completely abandoned all their heavy coats, their boots, and their food. They literally left their only lifelines behind in minus 30-degree Fahrenheit temperatures.
The nightmare only deepened outside the tent. Rescuers found orderly footprints leading a full mile away down into a dark forest. And I mean footprints from people in socks or totally barefoot. Under a cedar tree, they found the first 2 bodies, in just their underwear, lying next to the remnants of a desperate flickering fire. 3 more bodies, including Dyatlov himself, were found on the slope, seemingly trying to crawl their way back to the tent. And it took 2 whole months to find the final 4 bodies buried deep in a ravine under 13 feet of snow. You have to ask yourself, why on earth would experienced outdoorsmen slice their way out of a shelter and run barefoot into a pitch-black blizzard?
To really grasp just how baffling this mystery is, we need to look at the stark contrast between the victims. The first 5 hikers found on the slope mostly died of severe hypothermia. Makes sense, right? But the 4 found months later in the ravine, they suffered catastrophic, logic-defying physical trauma that hypothermia simply cannot explain.
And this brilliantly illustrates just how visceral and confusing this case gets. The victims in the ravine suffered massive internal devastation. We're talking crushed skulls and multiple broken ribs. Shockingly, one victim was actually missing her tongue and her eyes. Yet despite all of this massive internal trauma, there were absolutely no external scratches, no bruises, no signs of a struggle whatsoever. Plus, some of the clothing carried abnormally high levels of radiation. I mean, what kind of invisible force crushes bone without leaving a single mark on the skin? Now, the Soviet investigation into all this was incredibly swift and shrouded in extreme secrecy. The official report vaguely blamed a, quote, compelling natural force. They offered zero scientific explanation for the radiation or the blunt force trauma, and they just quietly buried the case in classified archives for decades.
Of course, because of all that government secrecy, the ideas just spread like wildfire. Countless theories have emerged over the decades. So, let's put our analytical lenses on and impartially review the 4 major theories that attempt to explain the inexplicable facts of that night.
First up, the slab avalanche hypothesis. Fast forward to 2021, and scientists propose that a localized collapse of heavy snow basically startled the sleeping hikers, causing them to panic, slash the tent, and flee. It's a solid scientific explanation for the sudden flight. But there are some pretty major holes here. The slope they were on was only about 15 to 20 degrees, which is far too gentle for an avalanche. Plus, there was absolutely no avalanche debris found, and the tent was remarkably intact.
Second is infrasound. This one is fascinating. Fast-moving mountain winds can actually create low-frequency vibrations that humans can't technically hear, but our bodies can definitely feel. These vibrations are scientifically proven to induce intense panic, disorientation, and even hallucinations. It perfectly explains why the group fled in terror. However, it completely fails to account for the crushed bones, the physical mutilations, or the radiation.
Our third theory points to a military cover-up. Keep in mind, this was 1959, the absolute height of the Cold War. Did these hikers unwittingly stumble into a secret Soviet weapons or radiological testing site? Proponents of this theory point right to the highly radioactive clothing and to the hikers' final camera frame, which captured this blurry, overexposed image of strange lights in the sky. Did the government accidentally kill them and then stage the campsite to hide a lethal mistake?
And finally, we have the fringe theories, the paranormal. Local indigenous Mansi legends speak of the Menk, which is sort of a Yeti-like creature, while other people point to UFO activity, again based on those strange lights in the photos. Now, while these are obviously completely outside the realm of science, they persist purely because of the sheer terrifying brutality of the injuries. When human logic fails to explain how bones get crushed without physical impact, our minds naturally start searching for supernatural answers.
So the crucial point is, when we map these theories against the hard evidence, the mystery only deepens. The avalanche and infrasound theories explain the panic, sure, but they totally fail on the injuries and the radiation. The military cover-up accounts for the physical evidence, but why would a highly covert up just leave the bodies there to be discovered by a civilian search party? The truth is, not a single scientifically supported theory perfectly encapsulates all the bizarre clues left on that mountain.
The mystery remained officially untouched for years, until a viral revelation in 2019. The Russian government surprisingly announced they were reopening the case. They investigated and officially concluded that yes, it was an avalanche. However, their steadfast refusal to declassify and release all the historical files didn't exactly put the mystery to rest. If anything, it only fueled further speculation that a high-level cover-up is still active today.
But setting the science and the conspiracies aside for just a second, there is one undeniable, chilling historical detail. The mountain where those hikers pitched their doomed tent is called Kholat Syakhl in the local Mansi language, and that translates directly to Dead Mountain. It stands as this grim historical warning that those young, eager students unknowingly walked right into.
We've laid out the timeline, the baffling crime scene, the massive missing pieces, and the leading theories. Nature, human error, and perhaps something much darker, all converged on that icy slope. So, I leave you to weigh the evidence for yourself. What do you think really happened out there in 1959? Was this just a tragic natural disaster, a deeply guarded government conspiracy, or something else entirely whispering from beneath the snow?